Click on the subscribe button, especially the bell on the right side. Otherwise, you will miss the latest videos.
So hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to the webinar of Saptarishis Astrology, and we are in the next chapter in the series of how to improve our planetary karma. And today we have chosen planet as Mars, the planet of action, planet of vigor. And so we have decided that we are going to take less number of breaks because the planet is Mars, and to present it, to teach it, we have none other than Kṣaṇāti himself. So I welcome Kṣaṇāti. Welcome to the webinar, and thank you so much for conducting these webinars for us and enlightening us, inspiring us to learn about planets. Thank you so much, Kṣaṇāti, and welcome.
Namaste, Madhuraji. Thank you so much. I'm always so grateful for your support, for your kindness, for your intelligence. Thank you so much for helping support and facilitate this amazing work with Jyotish. As always, I'd like to give a special thanks to Sunil, John, and rest of the team here at Saptarishis Astrology. It's such a profound honor to be a part of this team and to continue to do great research and work in the field of Vedic astrology. Today we have a very exciting webinar planned, how to improve our planetary karma with Mars. And believe it or not, this is the 8th installment in the How to Improve Our Planetary Karma series. And after we're completed with the Mars webinar, there will only be one planet left. There will only be the moon. And then we will have completed the entire series. So it's a very exciting time. There's a very special reason why Mars was chosen, because currently Mars is in Scorpio. Scorpio, being ruled by the planet Mars, is very powerful when Mars is in Scorpio. So we're at a very significant time as well where Mars has a lot of planetary strength. So it's a really good time to talk about Mars when Mars is so strong. I think that it's very exciting that we're talking about Mars. Mars is considered by a lot of Vedic astrologers to be considered a malefic planet. And whenever we look at malefic planets, there's a lot of fear around them. Because they're malefic, we fear them, and sometimes we give them a bad rap. In other words, we give them a bad understanding because we look at them like villain. But there are so many beautiful things about Mars and the karma which Mars supports. So I'm hoping in our time together today, even though we'll talk about some of the challenges that Mars bring up, we're trying to paint a brighter, more positive picture of Mars, because I don't think we need to fear really any of the planets as much as we need to respect their qualities. So very exciting as we jump into how to improve our planetary karma with Mars. And I just want to thank everyone from all over the world for joining us today. Namaste and Namah Shivaya. So firstly, I'd like to share that we're going to be discussing Mangala today. How to improve our planetary karma with Mangala. Mangala means the auspicious one. Also can be described Mangala, Lord Shiva. But in this sense, Mangala specifically describing Mars, Mangal meaning the auspicious one. And so we're going to determine how to activate our maximum energy, Mars being the planet of energy, empower strength, courage, and confidence, because Mars really possesses those qualities, unlock our full ambitions or motivations, and to achieve anything and everything our energy goes towards, our ability to accomplish that which we set our minds to. I'm Kṣaṇāti from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is my website, email, Facebook page, and you can always contact me if there are any questions, if you would like to email queries in for future webinars, if there's any private support that you would need, feel free to contact me at any time. Always here to support anyone with the divine science of Jyotish. So today we've split our webinar into 6 parts. Again, because Mars is the planet of action and energy, I'm going to be trying to move through this webinar as quickly as possible today in honor of Mars, because that's the way that Mars likes things to be done. So first we're going to discuss the karma of Mangala. Then we're going to discuss the current position, the current transit of Mangala. Then we're going to discuss general qualities of Mars karma and how that is influenced by planetary dignity, the sign which Mars is traveling in. Then we're going to discuss ancient remedy, Ayurvedic remedy, and lifestyle remedy for how to improve our planetary karma with Mars. And then we're going to go over a few community examples that different members of the Saptarishis Astrology community sent in, and we will pull them into the webinar live to discuss them. So that will be very fun as well.
Wonderful.
I always like to start the webinar by honoring the planet through traditional Vedic mantra, Sanskrit mantra, and the Mars mantra is one of my favorite mantras. So for a quick moment, we're gonna, if all of the people who are watching this or joining us now, if you can join me for 3 Om, and then I'm gonna do a shortened version of this Mars mantra together, just so we can really channel the energy of Mars with us together today. Dharani Garbha Sambhuta Vidyutkanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalam Pranamamyaham. Dharani Garbha Sambhuta Vidyutkanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalam Pranamamyaham. Dharani Garbha Sambhuta Vidyutkanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalam Pranamamyaham. Om Kram Krim Kram Sa Bhaumaya Namah. Om Kram Krim Kram Sa Mangalaya Namah. Om Kram Krim Kram Sa Bhaumaya Namah. Om Kram Krim Kram Sa Mangalaya Namaha. Hari Om. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Shri Mangala. Hope everyone's feeling that Mars energy nice and strong now.
Yes.
Wonderful. So now let's dive in discussing that Mars karma, everyone. So Mars has many different names, and all of those names are symbolic or expressive of the karma which Mars possesses. So we can discuss the qualities, the karmas of Mars, through the symbolic interpretation of their name. This is one of the most beautiful ways to understand a planet. Mars is called Mangala in Sanskrit, which is the meaning of auspicious. Therefore, Mangala activates a karma of auspiciousness. So we have this planet Mars, which is generally considered malefic, and yet the meaning of the name Mangala means auspicious. So maybe there's something that we're missing as far as how we label this planet a challenging or malefic planet without understanding all of its beautiful qualities. Now, auspicious is a broad concept, and it's a profound concept. When you look at the Sanskrit root, the language root of Mang, it means happiness, bliss, favor, adornment. So this is what the root Mang means. That means it is an inherent part of Mars karma to provide happiness, enhance, or benefit. So when we're saying auspicious, yes, we always like to use the word auspicious, especially in astrology, but what does auspicious really mean? It means to make something better, to give something happiness, to give something a benefit, or to make it better than it was before. That is for something to have auspiciousness, to have luck, to have favor. Okay? This auspiciousness with Mangala is related to certain blessings. In other words, the auspiciousness goes towards certain blessings. One of the greatest blessings associated with Mars is siblings, particularly brothers. And then also Mars gives blessing of a leadership position, and it gives blessing of strength, courage, and confidence. This is very many different manifestations of auspiciousness. Another way that we describe this beneficial Mangala karma is that Mangala provides support. It enhances where support is needed, where there is enhancement needed. So another way that we understand auspiciousness is that something is auspicious because it provides support where support is needed. It gives what is needed. And so often Mars karma, it gets or gives what it's needed, especially when it's in a favorable position. Ultimately, to provide benefit in many different ways is at the root of Mars karma. So this beneficial Mangala karma manifests in two different ways. One is the positive side of Mars karma, if our planetary relationship with Mars is good. So I'm differentiating here. There's a higher side, a more positive side of the Mars karma, and then a lower side, a darker side of the Mars karma. There is an element of Mars which is considered tamasic. And so whenever a planet is considered tamasic, we have to address those tamasic qualities of the planet. So if Mars is in a positive position, we're talking about positive planetary dignity. So Mars being in a sign which it is comfortable with, and then also a house which it is comfortable with no negative aspects or no severely challenging negative aspects. And when Mars dignity is in this positive place, it supports a great benefit in the aim and area of life where Mars is. This means if Mars is in a positive position, let's say Mars is in Pisces, Mars is in Sagittarius, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, then you will notice a beneficial effect from Mars. It can be acting functionally benefic, which means the magic of Mars, the magic of Mangala, the auspiciousness will be really expressed strong. It will enhance, support, and give blessings to the native in whichever area of life. In the second house, it'll bless them financially. So this is just an example. That is to say that in order to receive the real positive side of the blessings of Mars, Mars has to be in good position and dignity. Otherwise, you can get some more of the tamasic effects. And when Mars dignity and position is malefic, which means debilitation, enemy planet, enemy sign, without any auspicious or supportive aspects, it can be very challenging. It can take the blessing away in that house. It can take the support away in that house because Mars is the planet of energy. And if Mars is weak, then you don't have any energy. So no energy will be given to that house. On a deep karmic level, wherever Mars sits, the native needs support and benefit in that area. So wherever Mars is, that's the area of life where you need the most support. However, if it's in a negative dignity, acting as a malefic force, you will have no support in that area. You will have no benefit in that area. So even though by having Mars in that house, you need support, you need benefit in that area, if Mars is in negative dignity, you could really feel the lack of support. So, as mentioned, Mangala is also the force of the universe, which represents action and energy. It's literally the planetary representation of these things. Therefore, Mangala activates a very strong karma that wherever Mars sits, that action and energy must be given to that area of life for our greatest spiritual evolution. So, wherever Mars is positioned in our chart, we are to give action towards that area. We are to give energy to that area. That is how we improve our planetary karma with Mars. For example, if Mars is in the second house, in order for me to make money, I have to put a lot of action and energy towards that. So I have to put all of my power and strength towards advertising or marketing in order to be able to do anything with that. So wherever Mars sits, that is where, from a karmic perspective, the universe is asking you to put action and energy toward. Now, if Mars dignity seems positive, there will be a great benefit in action and energy. So when Mars has high dignity, like exaltation, friend position, in a good house, the person has robust energy. The person is action oriented. So when Mars has a favorable position, it really gives the person energy and an action orientation in whichever area of life or whichever house Mars sits. It will enhance and support the native to have the energy that they need to accomplish everything in that area. So when Mars is in a positive position, you have the energy that you need to complete the task that you need to complete. But when Mars is in a negative position or negative dignity, these people have no energy. These people are have not action. They are lazy energetically. And this isn't necessarily their fault at all, even though all our karma is our responsibility. But nonetheless, when Mars is in a challenging position, it takes away the juice from our life. It takes away the passion from our life. It takes away the enthusiasm from our life. It can make it hard to get the energy that you need to do what you need to do. Now, wherever it sits, Mars sits, the individual needs to be action-oriented and give energy to that level, to that area of life. But if the Mars is in a negative position, they will not have the energy to do it. For example, let's say you are looking at a debilitated Mars in the 10th house of career. In order for them to be successful in their career, they will need to give all of their energy to their career, and they will need to be action-oriented in their career. But because of the debilitation of Mars, when it comes time to doing something there for career, they feel exhausted. They feel like they don't have the energy to do what they need to do. Maybe they aren't even able to make it to work on time because they don't even have the energy in the morning that they need to get up to be on work on time. These are just some examples of how a more challenging Mars karma can influence our loss of energy. When looking at Mangala karma, there are two manifestations, a physical manifestation and a spiritual manifestation. again, we're looking at a higher side of Mars, and we're looking at a lower, more tamasic side of Mars. Okay? One is manifesting on Earth, Baumayaha. Mars is the sun of the Earth. Okay? And it's manifesting on a spiritual level as well by the more mystical energy which come from Mars. Another description, as I mentioned, Mars is called Kuja, which relates to the children of Earth. It is with this profound karma and energy of the son of the Earth that Mars manifests the wholeness of its physical karma. There is a very strong relationship between Mars and Earth, and there's a connection to the earthly plane like nature. Okay? Our physical karmic evolution takes place with Mars in our ability to accomplish everything we are to accomplish in our lives and to achieve the highest position. In other words, when I say that Mars has this material manifestation, that material manifestation means that you are to accomplish everything in the material world that you can, and you are also supported to achieve the highest position in the material world that you can. Mars wants you to do everything that you can do and to achieve the highest position that can be achieved. And Kuja supports the native to do whatever needs to be done in terms of action on the physical plane. In whichever house Kuja sit, there will be a series of tasks and achievements that must be achieved, completed, and accomplished for our highest alignment and karmic evolution with Kuja. In other words, if Mars is in the second house, there is a certain amount of tasks or goals that we need to work towards in order to be successful financially. If Mars is in the seventh house, there will be a certain amount of tasks that need to be completed in the relationship in order for there to be success in the relationship, in order for there to be marriage. And when we accomplish these tasks, that's when we fully align to our karmic evolution with Mars. If Kuja is acting functionally beneficial, the individual will have a strong sense, will have a strong knowledge of what their tasks are. In other words, if Mars is in a good position, usually the individual knows what they need to do in order to be successful, in order to achieve, in order to grow in that area of life. And so they can put energy towards doing that because they know what to do. However, when Mars is in a negative position, if acting like a functionally malefic or challenging planet in one's chart by negative dignity or position, the person will not be able to complete tasks which they start because they might not have a good understanding of what they need to do exactly. And when you don't have any goal, when you don't have any destination, well, it's hard to put work towards completing a goal. It's hard to put work towards reaching that destination. So often when Mars is in a negative position, these people cannot do what they need to do in that area of life because they're not able necessarily to see what the goals are and everything on the list which they need to accomplish. So there can be some confusion as far as the motivation. Another great way to describe Mars is called Skanda, Skandaji. And Skanda is the general of the Devas, also Shiva's son. So this is a manifestation of Mars, which is connected to Shiva's son. Now, Skanda, which is related to the general karma of Mars, well, general is the highest position within the army. There's a reason that Mars is called Skanda. There's the reason that Mars is the Shiva son, the general of the king's army, because the general is the highest position in the army. And also, the dharma of the general, much like you could say Arjuna, the dharma of the general is to win in war. Let's be honest. The dharma of the general is to win in war. And that action and energy are essential for this type of dharma. So we're setting up some few karmas by looking at the skandha. One is to achieve the highest position, like general of the army. And then the second is that dharmic vibration, which is to win, which is to accomplish. So skandha supports us to achieve the highest position in our given field of expertise and profession. That means if Mars is exalted in the highest career, you will be at the highest position within your career. The exaltedness, if Mars is in the, I've seen this, where people have exalted Mars in the second house, exalted Mars in the 10th house, and they are the CEO of their own business. It represents that they are to achieve the highest position in their given field. If someone has an exalted Mars in the 7th house, their partner is dominant in the relationship. It's just it because their partner has achieved the highest position. It even manifests romantic, where if someone has exalted Mars in the 7th house, often their partner is in charge. Or they joke that the partner will wear the pants in the relationship. So whenever Mars karma is strong, it activates skandha, and it helps you to achieve the highest potential as far as the position in whichever area of life that Mars influence. And that's on the positive side of skandha, because the general does have some positive qualities, but also the general is a militaristic energy. Skandha karma suggests an activation of a certain fierceness, which is the more rajasic, not tamasic, but rajasic side of Mars, which is pitta dosha. And that pitta dosha influence of Mars and skandha is associated with war, is associated with battle, is associated with fighting. And it's also associated with courage and confidence. And therefore, the skandha karma, wherever Mars sits in our chart, supports us to be courageous like an army general and to be willing to fight for the right or just cause. Usually people who have strong Mars position, they're very confident, they're very courageous. And usually people who have weak or challenged Mars position, they struggle with confidence. They struggle with doubt. They are more humble, which is on the positive side, but on the challenging side, they can also have trouble with their confidence or courage. A good general, skandha, also has good war or battle strategy. In other words, a good general is also smart about war. And that on some level, a good general knows that you can't win every battle. That is why you say, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. Sometimes we lose a battle, but that is not what matters. It's whether we win the war. And Mars carries this similar energy in that it can see the big picture. It might lose an individual battle, but it knows that the war is the bigger picture. The highest evolution of this general skandha karma is courageous and willing to fight for the right cause, almost like a spiritual warrior. On the positive side of this energy, the Mars is the general, which is fighting for righteousness. And so they will pick their battles wisely. And this is symbolic because now, for the time that we're living in, not all of the battles that we fight are physical. Sometimes we fight emotional battle. Sometimes we fight spiritual battle. Sometimes we fight battle with our inner demon or with the darker side of ourself. But when the Mars karma is strong, it is not and positive. It's not about the individual battles, which we must win every battle, but the wisdom to know that you must pick your battles wisely and that it's really about the war and not the individual battles. Many of the wars and battles we fight in life are not physical battles of bloodshed and terror, but spiritual battles between the higher version of ourselves and the lower version of ourselves. As well as we have battles against our enemies. We have battles against setback, challenges, and obstacles in life. Ultimately, on a very powerful level, Skanda, Mars Karma, activates us to win the war in our life. And wherever Mars is, it can show where we have war. It can show where we have to have battles. Sometimes people have Mars in the 7th house in a challenging position, and they go through very challenging divorce. And at some point in their relationship, they feel like they are in war with their partner, and they don't feel like they win the war until the divorce is over. If you have challenging Mars in the 10th house, then sometimes you have challenges in your career. You have many battles that you have to face. To achieve your highest position in your career, it is like having to win a war. But when the Mars position is strong, when the dignity is strong, it gives us the action and the energy that we need to win the war and the wisdom to pick our battles wisely. So now I want to talk a little bit about the current position of Mars. It's very significant because Mars is in its natural sign. Mars entered its natural sign of Scorpio on January 18, 2018. And Mars will transit into the Jupiter-ruled sign of Sagittarius on March 8th. So in about 9 or 10 days. Whenever a planet enters its natural sign by a transit, like Mars entering Scorpio, the graha becomes incredibly powerful and fully expressed in its quality. Some Vedic astrologers believe that a planet is more powerful in its natural sign than in its exaltation sign, that the exaltation represents where it's most comfortable, but the natural sign represents where it's most strong. So Scorpio could be one of the strongest positions for Mangala in the chart. When Mars is in Scorpio, it creates powerful vibration of curiosity, passion, research, investigation, and transformative energies. Noticing the individual natal Mars position in everyone's various charts, as well as the position of Scorpio in the chart, will show whether this influence of Mars in Scorpio will be beneficial or challenging for the native. So if you have a good Scorpio energy in your chart, if you have a good Mars energy in your chart, this will probably be a beneficial transit. If Mars is in a challenging dignity, if there are some challenging planets in Scorpio in your chart, this could be a more challenging transit. But for all people, this is a time of great curiosity and a desire to investigate those curiosities. Because Mars is in Scorpio now, every single human being on this earth is functioning in a more curious way, which means we are thinking outside of the box. We are curious about things which we do not know. This is a very beautiful time for investigating knowledge which we wish to investigate. And in the process of investigating those curiosities, a profound transformation takes place. Scorpio is one of the most transformative vibrations, so we're also in a highly transformative time. When you investigate what you are curious about, you will transform as a result of what you found. The investigation-transformation relationship that is activated right now creates a specific transit of rebirth, in which certain individuals are reborn during this transit of Mars in Scorpio, especially those with strong Scorpio influence. The transformation that takes place as a result of the investigation is profound. The person will be born and they will never be will be reborn, and they will not be the same individual. The older, lesser version of themselves, the lower version of themselves, it goes through a symbolic death, which is the death of all of the aspects of yourself which are not your higher qualities or your lesser self. And when that lesser self goes through death, the person who is waking up the next day is reborn without those lesser qualities and is a much more spiritually evolved, mystical version of themselves. So now we're going to look at Mars through all the different signs, because we all have different positions of Mars in our chart. And how can we know how those unique influences are being manifested? So first I wanted to say that Mars is exalted in the Saturn-ruled sign of Capricorn. I've always found this incredibly interesting because Mars and Saturn, Capricorn's ruler, don't always work well together. So it's a very unique exaltation, which we'll discuss in detail. And then Mars is also its natural sign Aries, and when it is in degrees 0 to 12, it goes through a mula tricona, a partial exaltation. So even though Mars is natural sign in Scorpio and Aries, that Aries is even stronger for Mars, especially when Mars is in 0 to 12 degrees. Like the person who ran for president here, Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders had strong Mars mula tricona. And it was retrograde too. Really interesting Mars. So as we discuss the Mars exaltation, when Mars aligns to Capricorn, it creates a very auspicious and unique vibrations. But whenever we're talking about a malefic planet being exalted, there's always a mixed effect. Even though there will be a benefit from the exaltation, a challenging planet is very strong. So that will also have its challenges as well. This particular exaltation is fascinating because, as we mentioned, Capricorn rulers Saturn is sometimes considered an enemy to Mars, and at the very least is considered a neutral planet to Mars. So why is it exalted in Capricorn? It's a very rare energy that a planet is exalted in its enemy's sign. Whenever we have an exalted but malefic planet, there is a mixed effect. And as I mentioned that, even though this is an exaltation, you're still going to get some challenges just by the sheer power of Mars. Now, in the case of Mars and Capricorn, on the positive side, it creates a vibration of never letting adversity get you down. These people are so resilient. They are the perfect example. If you fall off the horse, you get back on, no matter how many times you fall off the horse. And actually, this is the people that overcome adversity, no matter what the adversity is. These people are profoundly resilient. And so they never let adversity get you down. They are determined, they are steadfast. And it gives an incredible ability to conquer and overcome all challenges and obstacles. Now, because Mars is exalted here, there will be many challenges and obstacles for the individual throughout their life. Exalted Mars give challenge and obstacles. But the great thing about exalted Mars is it gives the challenge and obstacle, but you are meant to overcome it. And yes, there is adversity, but when you overcome that adversity, the grass is greener on the other side. So exalted Mars does not mean no challenges or adversity. It actually increased challenge and adversity, but gives great reward for our ability to overcome that adversity. And these people usually conquer and overcome many of their life challenges with great reward. And exalted Mars also support great enthusiasm, discipline, and action orientation in whichever house Mars influences. So these people really have a lot of power in whichever house Mars sits. The challenge of exalted Mars is there is often an incredibly strong Pitta vibration. And when you have Mars, one of the strongest Pitta planet, which is exalted, oftentimes there can be excessive amounts of the Pitta dosha, too much Pitta dosha. And it can create an imbalance of energy and action in whichever area of life it influences because of the excess Pitta. So therefore, if exalted Mars is influencing money or career, like second house or 10th house, these natives can have an unhealthy focus of energy on money and work. In other words, they become like a workaholic because it is an unbalanced amount of Rajasic energy, which means they give too much action to it. They give too much energy to it. It's not in the proper priority. And so oftentimes it can be compulsive, it can be addictive, and it can also be obsessive in whichever area of life Mars is. For example, if exalted Mars is influencing work, then person is workaholic, which means they work, have no time for play, have no time for love, have no time for family, have no time for fun. All they do is work. And we all know one or two people in our life like this. Most likely you look at their chart, they have very strong Mars. Another challenging thing, just to summarize again, the exalted Mars gives the individual the power to overcome all of their adversity, but at the same time, it means that the life will have a lot of adversity that need to be overcome. When we're looking at Mars in Aries, which is Mula Trikona, Aries' primary karma is of action. It is doing what needs to be done, progression, advancement, and accomplishing with the action and energy. So this is part of the reason why Mars is in Mula Trikona. It's because Mars represent action and energy, and Aries is about doing what needs to be done. So this action energy is very strong with Mars in Aries. Mars aligned to Aries supports very positive energies of the ability to do what needs to be done, as well as the ability to be good at setting goals, but also with setting goals, the ability to meet those goals, the ability to accomplish those goals. And also Mars in Aries is very supportive to advance, prosper, and succeed wherever Mars in Aries is. Usually where Mars in Aries, the people will have a lot of success in that area. Mars in Aries allows someone to accomplish and complete that's what they set their mind to, and to be rewarded with reputation and success for doing what you said you were going to do, for doing what needs to be done. So Mars in Aries, it's a really positive vibration for an ability to do whatever you try to do. Usually you will be able to accomplish whatever you wish to accomplish. Mars in Aries, however, similar to the exalted Mars, can create challenges associated with the Pitta dosha. Mars in Aries can create what I call the Energizer bunny effect. The Energizer bunny effect, which is basically a commercial here from the United States, which is a pink bunny, which has a battery on the back of it, and the battery is always on. So the bunny is always shaking. The bunny is always moving. The bunny is never turned off. The battery is never turned off. This is very similar to the challenging vibration, which we notice when Mars is in Aries. Mars is in Aries creates an individual which is full of fire, passion, enthusiasm, and energy. And all of those things are positive, but not when you can never turn it off. Not when those things are always on and you have no escape from them. That can be challenging. Now, if the native has control over this Energizer bunny effect, it can be very positive because they can put passion and enthusiasm to whatever they need to. But without proper utilization or control over this energy, the native is left with a lot of undue, unsettled, excessive amount of energy that they can never turn off. In other words, sometimes for those with Mars in Aries, especially if it's retrograde, that these people are always in go mode. They can never slow down, take it easy. They are just go, 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 like a jackrabbit. Now, when looking at Mars in debilitation, it can be very challenging. Mars aligned to Cancer creates a very inauspicious and malefic vibration. Mars is the general of the king's army, Skanda, and Cancer ruler, the moon, is the queen. The general and the queen do not have that much in common, do they? Except the fact that they both honor and respect the king, which is represented as the sun. The moon is the representative of devotion, unconditional love, the feminine energy, care, empathy, sympathy, and support, while Skanda is more like war vibration that do not align very well with the karmas and energies of the moon. Mars in Cancer often brings difficult karmas and challenges to the family, specifically the mother, home life, homeland, property, relationships, and health. Mars debilitation can cause many challenges in whichever area of life it sits, but it usually causes certain challenges with the mother, with the home life, and with romantic relationship. And so depending on which house the debilitation influences, it can destroy the favorable quality of that house. So a debilitation of Mars in the 7th house can make it very hard to be happiness in marriage. For debilitation of Mars in the 10th house, it can be very hard to be happy with the career. Not impossible, but you have to align to a certain frequency in order to be able to experience pleasure there. And very often when I see Mars in debilitation, I think trauma. I think post-traumatic stress disorder. Often people have traumatic experience wherever debilitation of Mars is. That means they must deal with disappointment, trauma, and loss wherever the Mars of debilitation sits. Now, I never like to talk about something as completely negative. There are some favorable qualities of a debilitation of Mars. When a planet is debilitated, it loses power. And because this malefic planet has lose power, well, you're also going to get less power of the negative expression. So even though the manifestation of the Mars karma is challenging, it might not be that strong. It might not be something that influences your life so much on daily basis as much as when it is activated through transit and dasha. There is this favorable quality because when you deal with a certain amount of trauma, it supports the native to push through that trauma, to work through that trauma, to work through that emotional challenge. And so when we have certain traumas and we work through them, it creates resilience. That is why they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So even though people with Mars debilitated have a lot of trauma in the area of life which Mars influence, that still they are very resilient and are very strong at overcoming trauma and emotional challenges. So Mars has pretty auspicious and favorable dignity in the sun-ruled sign of Leo. This is in part due to the favorable relationship between the Sun and the Mars. The Sun and the Mars are two of the best friends in Jyotish because the Sun is the representation of the king, and Mars is the general of the king's army. And all through history, the general of the army and the king have had a very tight and powerful positive relationship. Often the king or sun can represent a vision of truth for the people. And Mars, the general of the king's army, helps bring that vision to fruition through action. So oftentimes the sun can represent the vision, but Mars can represent the actions that are necessary in order for that vision to manifest. When Mars aligns to Leo, it creates powerful energies of courage, confidence, power, action, energy, and leadership. Often this leadership potential will manifest with a lot of power and prestige and reputation. So when Mars is in Leo, it helps to really support the power, energy, and leadership potential for the native. On the challenging side, again, Mars is Pitta and Leo is Pitta. So again, you're getting an excessive amount of Pitta energy, and these excessive fire energies can create Pitta-type imbalances like irritability, inflammation, restlessness, discontentedness, frustration, etc. Okay, so Mars has a very auspicious dignity and karma in the Jupiter-ruled signs of Sagittarius and Pisces. This is partially because there is a very favorable and friendly relationship between Jupiter and Mars. Jupiter is great friend with Mars. Mars is great friend with Jupiter. And so again, these are two of the best friend. You wouldn't necessarily think the general and the guru, how they can be great friend to each other, but they are actually essential to the manifestation of potential. In other words, when these two energies are combined in a positive way, it is a much more positive energy than any one of those energies on their own. Mars, the general of the king's army, and Jupiter, the guru or spiritual teacher, have always had a favorable karma with each other. It can be said that these energies supplement or complement each other in a very profound and meaningful way. Looking at both inauspicious manifestations of planetary karma, so now we're looking at the lower side of Jupiter on its own and the lower side of Mars on its own to understand why these two energies are so favorable when they are combined together. When we look at the lower manifestation of Jupiter energy, let's give the example of an awakened and enlightened spiritual teacher. But also that spiritual teacher has succumbed to laziness and a lack of integration or implementation of that wisdom into the action or material world. So in this lower vibration of Jupiter, we're looking at a spiritual teacher who sits in a blanket all day at an ashram, and there are no actions that help make the world a better place. Yes, this guru possessed great wisdom, but what good is that wisdom if you can't do anything with it? If you don't make any positive difference with it, what good is that wisdom anyway? On the lower side of the Mars energy, we think of a profound warrior, the greatest general, the greatest warrior that there ever was. But this warrior loves alcohol. This warrior loves tobacco. This warrior loves meat. And this warrior loves sex without marriage. The warrior loves all of these things, which are tamasic, even though he is the greatest warrior. The higher level of one of the grahas highly promotes the lower level of the other planet. So what you find is one of the most complementary energies. The higher energy of the guru takes away the tamasic desire of Mars. And the higher energy of Mars gives this guru action and energy to actually make a difference in this world. Mars in Sagittarius embodies and magnifies strong moral and ethical potential. These people are very strong with their moral and ethical beliefs. It allows the higher self to shine through moral and ethical action. These people not only talk the talk as far as morals and ethics, but they really walk the walk. They let their actions speak louder than words. People with Mars in Sagittarius, they are really good people through their action. And this conjunction also supports a freedom fighter or a spiritual warrior vibration. Pejoratively, someone who fights for freedom, fairness, equality, and justice. Someone who believes in all of these things and will fight for that because those things are righteous, those things are moral, those things are ethical. I love Mars in Sagittarius because a lot of people will believe certain moral or ethic, but when it comes time to stand up for them, they don't have the strength. But when Mars is in Sagittarius, it has courage, it has confidence to fight for what is fair, to fight for what is right, to fight for what is equal. But again, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so we're having a double pitta vibration. So these people are very opinionated. They are very confident and expressive of their opinion. And sometimes that could come off like sharp. It can come off very sharp. So these people are very strong in their opinion. And sometimes that can manifest as judgment or condescending towards others. Mars in Pisces, I really like as well, probably because that's my position in my chart. So now I have let everyone know I am Aquarius Lagna, but I have Mars in Pisces in second house. So this is my personal position for Mars, and so I can appreciate it. Mars in Pisces is highly philosophical, it's intuitive, and it's mystical because these are the qualities of Pisces. It supports someone to have strong spiritual principles, intuitive understanding, and esoteric wisdom, which is to be put into action. So they are usually very philosophically oriented, but they want to do something with that philosophy. They want to do something with that knowledge. That's why this conjunction is highly applicable for working with Jyotish, working with Ayurveda, working with mysticism, working with religion, working with philosophy. Also, this alignment brings a deep interconnection between intuition and instinct. Instinct is the physical inclination, intuition is the spiritual inclination. So Mars in Pisces can be very helpful because it can align the spiritual and the physical intuition, which means what feels right here is also what's going to feel right in the gut. It's going to feel right in both of these places. So that can be really positive because you feel something physically, but you also feel something intuitively as well. Like that's how you know that it's right. Like sometimes when I would, a teacher would ask a question in class and I knew what the answer was, not only would I know what the answer was intuitively, but I could feel it in my stomach. I would start shaking and my stomach would start making butterfly noises. So it's also that you're kind of feel this like physical and spiritual sensation to deliver something, to share something, to give something. Challenges with Mars in Pisces, because Pisces is very, you could say, ungrounded at times. It can include impulsivity. So Mars in Pisces could show impulsive behavior, stubbornness, and also random thinking. In terms of Mars in Pisces, Pisces intuition. So oftentimes, sometimes with Mars in Pisces, the individuals have random thoughts. You know, for example, I might be working about on Jyotish, and all of a sudden, because of Mars in Pisces, I start having some random thought about this stranger I met 3 days ago while walking in the street. It's like all of a sudden your consciousness is thinking about someone else. So it can cause some what you might call in the West ADD. So Mars, that was all of the positive positions for Mars. Now we're going to look at some of the challenging positions and some of the neutral positions. So Mars has a very challenging dignity and karma in the Mercury-ruled signs of Gemini and Virgo. This unfavorable karma is attributed to the enemy relationship between Mercury and Mars. Mercury and Mars, they usually don't get along well with each other. However, Mercury does better with Mars than Mars does with Mercury. Mars really doesn't like Mercury. Mercury is maybe more neutral to Mars. Mars does not really enjoy Mercury. Now, this is because Mars is the general of the king's army. Picture a general. And Mercury is the emblem of intelligence, Buddhayaha. You do not necessarily think of logic and war, of general and teacher. Oftentimes these energies, one is more hormonal, more action, more energy, coming from instinct. Mercury is coming from logic, it's coming from reason, it's coming from intellect. So one is coming from the body, the other is coming from the intellect. So this can be a challenging conjunction. Okay? These two energies are opposing or dualistic, and so usually when they come into balance with each other, there can be very challenging. I will, however, say that some people can really manifest this energy in a positive way, in which their instinct and their logic are in alignment with each other. But oftentimes it can create a challenge. Do I do what feels right, or do I do what makes sense? Do I do what is logical, or do I do what I'm feeling in my stomach? Sometimes these things can be more of conflict when you have Mercury-Mars relationship. And so also specifically through Dr. Vasant Lad, he used to teach me that because Mars is connected to the Rakta and the skin, that Mercury and Mars, when they're combined in a chart, can create a kave gunya, vulnerability in the skin. And so sometimes Mercury Mars combinations, if they're in the first house, sixth house, eighth house, these person have skin problems, or an Ayurvedic disease, we call this kushta. Mars in Gemini creates a vibration where the person has great diversity and variability in their actions. In other words, they do lots of different stuff. People with Mars in Gemini are always doing all this different things, all this different stuff. And because of the Mars energy, they're often doing many things at once. That doesn't mean that so they are multitasker. That doesn't mean that they do things better multitasking. It just means that it is their nature to multitask, to try to do many things at once. Doing this, doing that, doing the other thing. They're very busy, and they're also active socially. The challenging vibration of the Mars and Gemini is they are very easily distracted. Again, something you could call ADD. Or even more extreme version of that is they can be all over the place, because when you're doing many things at once, sometimes you are biting more than you can chew. You are taking more than you can handle. And when you do that, it is going to create some challenges in life. Also, Mars in Gemini, because of its social interaction, can cause disturbance in friendship. What that means is there's a lot of passion and enthusiasm towards friendship, but it's also, with the Mars influence, it's either a love or a hate relationship. So oftentimes people with Mars and Gemini, depending on the position, they get in fight with their friend. They get in argument with their friend. Because also by having Mars in Gemini, it can make the communication aggressive. Now, when Mars is in Virgo, it's very idealistic, intense, and is keen towards observation. It can create certain favorable vibrations. I've seen Mars in Virgo manifest positively of having a quick mind when focused on one specific task. Notice that I mentioned one specific task. These usually are individuals, if they set their mind towards one thing, they should have a quick mind to be able to understand it. But due to Mars influence is strongest when the task is physical or action oriented. So it's most strongest for Mars in Virgo when the task that they have to do is a physical task and not an intellectual one. They might have to use their intellect in order for the physical task, but it's great when the task requires physical action. Also, Mars supports Virgo to be physical with its intellect, and so often physical expressions of intelligence are very supportive, like dance, yoga, and comedy. So for people with Mars and Mercury sign, Mars, Virgo, Mars, Mercury conjunction, I always recommend dance, yoga, and comedy to improve our planetary karma there. Now, however, the more challenging vibrations of Mars in Virgo can include an aggressive perfectionism. Sometimes this action with perfectionism is like someone who is running in circles trying to make something perfect, but if it can't be made perfect, they're still going to try. So that's why I said aggressive perfectionism. You could say instead of aggressive, passionate. They are striving for the ideal of something with passion and energy. But again, just like the Energizer bunny effect, which we talked about earlier with Mars in Aries, Mars in Virgo could be similar. They are not able to turn off the switch of I need to make things better. I need to improve things. They are always trying to make things better. Sometimes they can't turn off the switch of wanting to make something perfect. That is why I recommend for those with Mars in Mercury sign that once something is 80 to 90% complete, then you are completed it. Then you are done. Don't even try to make it 90 to 100% perfect, because there is so much of striving towards perfectionism that you will never think that you've gotten there, even when you have. Just try to do a good job. Don't try to do the perfect job. Mars has a neutral dignity and mixed karmic effect in the Venus-ruled signs of Taurus and Libra. This is a neutral conjunction, and mixed karma can be attributed to the variable relationship between Mars and Venus. Many Jyotisha consider Mars and Venus to be enemy. Many Jyotisha considered Mars and Venus to be neutral. And in my observation, sometimes Mars and Venus can benefit something initially, but challenging it in the long term. So usually there is some positive effect and also some challenging effect when you have Mars in this relationship with Venus. When we're looking at the general of the king's army and Venus, which is the top advisor to the queen, also sometimes called the princess, this relationship can often be described as a hot and heavy love affair between a beautiful, refined, sophisticated woman, which is Venus, and a brute, aggressive, yet well-honored and respected war general. This is a passionate love affair between the princess and the general. But even though they are very attracted to each other, they have nothing in common. And so initially, these two energies, they feel profound passion and inclination towards each other. Like magnet, they feel attraction to each other. Oftentimes in the beginning, when a Venus-Mars karma is activated, there is passion, there is energy, there is enthusiasm. It could even be described as sexy. And this passion and inclination towards each other is very strong. But soon thereafter, the love affair, they realize that they do not have much in common, that they do not have anything in common. There is nothing for them to talk about. there is nothing for them to discuss. After they make love with each other, they are sitting in bed together and there is nothing for them to discuss. They're just awkward. And that is the main reason that the Mars-Venus relationship can be described as hot and cold karmic effect. Because initially, there is a lot of attraction, there is a lot of magnetism between Venus and Mars. The attraction that the beautiful woman has to the masculine general and vice versa. But after that physical passion phase, the relationship or karma becomes very cold because there is nothing in common between those forces. Mars in Taurus inclines action and energy towards material and financial pursuits. This inclination supports passion towards the Artabhava, which is prosperity and success. Those with Mars in Taurus, of course, it depends which position or house the Mars in Taurus is, but it indicates a strong connection to the material realm. Usually those with Mars in Taurus, they are meant to have a strong connection to the material world. They are meant to have a strong connection to money and finances and prosperity in that sense. And so on the positive side, this supports achievement and energy towards financial and material success. It is also a favorable conjunction for appreciation of the art, for appreciation of music, for appreciation of entertainment. Whenever Mars is in a Venus sign, these people have so much fun. They are like inner child when it comes to art, music, and entertainment. However, this alignment of Mars in Taurus can also be challenging because it can make the individual materialistic, where they are putting their action and energy towards material gains. That means they can be influenced as a workaholic, they could overspend, or they could be frugal, and they can also have difficulties related to money because there could be some selfishness. So oftentimes the positive side of Mars and Taurus, these people are very successful in the work that they do. They're usually successful financially, but they have to be very careful about being frugal or being selfish financially. They might have money, but they might not be generous about it. Now, when you're looking at Mars in Libra, it gives profound action and energy toward romantic pursuit. These people are very inclined toward romance. It also gives profound passion and enthusiasm for art, music, and entertainment, even more than Venus in Taurus does. This can, Mars in Taurus. This conjunction can also make the native an incredible artist. People with Mars in Libra, they are good at art. They are good at entertainment. Sometimes they are a celebrity like actor. And they are also good musician. So Mars in Libra, very good to actually be an artist. When Mars is in Libra, it creates a powerful energy towards the experience of the relationship or the soulmate relationship. And often, this creates a karma in which there are many lessons along these lines. So usually, those with Mars in Libra, they have some lessons around relationship, romance, and partnership, which means often they can experience romantic challenges, heartbreak, and multiple marriages are also possible. When Mars is in Libra, these lessons are around balance and what actions we need in our lives in order to get to a place of balance. Due to unfavorable dignity of Mars in Libra, this conjunction can activate relationship challenges in which the native is hot, cold in relationship. This means in the beginning, oh, I love this person, I am passionate for this person, they are enthusiastic for this person, but 2 to 3 weeks later, they are bored, they are unexcited, they are ready to move on to a new relationship. So often with Mars in Libra, especially if like 7th house in the beginning of the relationship, individual very passionate, but after a while that quickly fades and there could be like an awkwardness or a coldness. As I mentioned, this is like the love affair between Mars and Venus. Initially very passionate, but in the long run, kind of awkward and cold. One other position of Mars that I want to mention is in Aquarius. It's kind of a neutral position for Mars. Again, Mars and Saturn can have a challenging relationship with each other, but many Jyotisha consider that to be a neutral relationship in some ways. Now, Mars in Aquarius supports vibrations of innovation and action. These people have an innovative idea and they are able to put it into action. So these people are kind of setting new trends in whichever area of Mars, area of life that Mars sits. Mars in Aquarius is really great for someone to bring innovations into the world that benefits large groups of people. So oftentimes those with Mars in Aquarius, they can bring profound changes into the world with their unique intelligence, which is able to see a new trend. These innovations can change the daily lifestyle of other people and make profound impacts on society. So the innovation which those with Mars in Aquarius bring can really make big changes in the world. Mars in Aquarius individuals are highly pragmatic, which means if it works, it works. If it's not broke, you don't need to fix it. And they find themselves putting action and energy towards whatever is working at that time. So they kind of follow the flow of energy. Challenging vibrations of Mars in Aquarius can include certain delays throughout one's life and lack of recognition for one's work. So even though the individual with their consciousness is ahead of their time, nonetheless, they still might not get the recognition that they need for the future that they are able to see.
Click on the subscribe button, especially the bell on the right side. Otherwise, you will miss the latest videos.